Let's get ready to rumble!
What's going on, Fight Buzz? Welcome to Legendary Nights, presented by Fight Buzz TV. Like every Thursday, guys, we're gonna be looking into a legendary fight between the Golden Boy Oscar De La Hoya versus ferocious Fernando Vargas, who's one of my favorite fighters, Fernando Vargas. But that fight took place September 14th of 2002. Took place at the Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. And it was a long-awaited fight. It marinated for a while, not only because they were both top pound-for-pound fighters at that time, but they had personal beef. And just to give you guys a little bit of context, it started when Vargas was an amateur fighter. Oscar is about 5 to 6 years older than Fernando Vargas. And they're both from California. When Oscar was in training camp for one of his fights, Fernando Vargas joined him for camp. And at the time, like I said, Vargas was still an amateur. And Vargas said that they were on a morning run in Big Bear, California, and that it was snowing. They were both jogging, and Fernando Vargas fell in the snow, and that Oscar, instead of helping him up, he laughed at his face and just kept running. So Vargas held a grudge from that moment. And according to Vargas, he was like, I can't wait to meet him. When I'm a professional, I'm gonna beat his ass. And we all know Vargas' personality, and that's why he's one of my favorite fighters. So at the time, Oscar, he was a golden boy, Olympic gold medalist. He was a pretty boy that could fight. Just think about it this way: he was like a Ryan Garcia, but he could actually fight. Olympic gold medalist. He became a champion when he was like 21 years old. He had a great left hook, and he was a great fighter. So he was a good-looking guy that could fight and could knock everybody out. So he was an actual fighter and a pretty boy and a movie star and a singer later on. So he was a huge star. Oscar was. And Vargas, when as a kid and as a teenager, and then as a pro, he was a bad boy. He was a street boy. He had a fan pleasing style, and he could fight as well. But he was just a street boy, a bad boy, and he was the opposite of Oscar De La Hoya. So as Vargas came up, Oscar was already a star. When Vargas was coming up the rankings, Oscar was already fighting on pay-per-view. He was top pound-for-pound fighter. And Vargas, when he turned pro, he became the youngest junior middleweight at 154 to win a world title with only 14 fights. And when Vargas won his title, Oscar was already pay-per-view star. He was top pound-for-pound fighter. And Oscar was already a huge star when Fernando Vargas was a champion. But Vargas had, undefeated. He was knocking everybody out. He was a bad boy. He was a street boy. He was outspoken, entertaining. And again, he was one of my favorite fighters at the time. Until Vargas was calling out Oscar like crazy. Oscar needs to fight me. And he was just calling him out. So eventually, they started negotiations in 2001, and the fight fell through because it was a money issue. The purse, the percentages, the negotiations, they couldn't come to an agreement, so the fight fell through. They picked up negotiations again the year after in 2002, and the fight was scheduled for May 4th. Because Oscar at the time, he had the 2 dates that Canelo has now, which is May and September. Those were Oscar dates. And so the fight, they started negotiations with him and Fernando Vargas, and then the fight fell through again because now apparently Oscar had hurt his hand in training camp.
All this happening back to back to back. And, I don't know what I got to do, you know what I'm saying? I definitely want to fight. you know, but I'm not going to be waiting for this cat, you know. And it's hard to go to work when you're wearing silk pajamas. You know what I'm saying? And I'm working hard, and I've rededicated myself to my.
And so the fight fell through again, and then they started negotiating again for a third time for them to fight in September. So then the fight finally got done for September of 2002. And so, you know, just going to the fight, it was very entertaining. Chavez came with Vargas. You know, he walked with Vargas to the ring, who Oscar had beaten twice in the 90s. And that was just like a huge thing back in the day, because Chavez was the people's champion, the Mexican Idol, and then here comes a young Mexican American kid, good looking kid that beats the idol, the people's champion, you know. And Vargas had his roots were he represented the US in the Olympics, but his Mexican roots were, you know, he always talked about his Mexican roots. So he had Chavez walk him to the ring for the De La Hoya fight, and he was like, had I been De La Hoya, I wouldn't have taken that fight with the legend Chavez. And it was a huge deal. So, you know, when they're walking to the fight, you know, Chavez was with Fernando Vargas. So when the fight started, it was very close and entertaining, you know, because at the time I think Oscar was like 30 and Vargas was 24 years old. So it was entertaining and it was a close fight. But, you know, as the fight went on, Oscar was obviously the better fighter. He stayed on the outside and worked the body very well and kind of slowed down Fernando Vargas. And in the 11th round, he dropped him with a left hook, which Oscar was known for his left hook, and it was a beautiful left hook to the jaw, dropped Vargas. And Vargas, obviously, with the huge heart that he has and a warrior that he is, he got up and kept fighting, but Oscar got him to the ropes, threw a flurry of like 30 punches, I kid you not, 20-30 punches, and then I think it was Joe Cortez that stopped the fight. And that's how the fight ended. It was titled The Bad Blood because they had bad blood, and it was a crazy event. It was a huge pay-per-view extravaganza, and it was just a huge fight in the early 2000s. And yeah, it was an incredible fight. De La Hoya went on and you know, continued with his career. He built his career even more. He won more world championships. And then on the other hand, Vargas, even though he was already young, he went on and fought a couple other times, and he had really good wins, but then went on and lost to Shane Mosley twice, and then lost to Mayorga when he was like 28 years old, and eventually retired at a young age. And so this was a legendary fight. That it was one of my favorite fights because I'm a huge fan of Fernando Vargas. But I just wanted to come in here and just give you guys a bit of a history, you know, of these huge fights, especially now that De La Hoya had these issues with Canelo, and people don't know that De La Hoya was a huge star back in the day, and De La Hoya was what Canelo was, you know, in his time. So people tend to forget, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of history and walk you guys through this huge event, this huge fight. But let me know what you guys think. And as always, this video was made for all the boxing fans.